So
Sweet.
let me start by introducing Eefa to all our viewers. Yeah, she definitely needs no introduction, but still.
You are
Uh,
too sweet, but that's absolutely not true.
so Eefa, you are one of the country's most sought after wellness lifestyle coach, a TEDx speaker, and you've also been interviewed on Discovery Channel and has been featured in leading publications, including Vogue India. You are also the winner of India Leadership Conclave Award in 2016 and voted by Asia's Spa magazine against amongst the country's most fit and fabulous in 2018. And you're also a devoted practitioner of Ashtanga Yoga. Your
Absolutely.
exciting client list includes Anushka Sharma, Virat Kohli, Hrithik Roshan, Abhay Deol, and so many more, and the esteemed young president organizations worldwide. I am so impressed by what you do. So, Eefa,
Namaste. No,
so
thank
Eefa,
you
it's
so
been
much for having me, Raksha. This is so
uh,
nice of you. Thank you so much.
my my pleasure and my honor as well. So, Aoife, it's been almost a couple of years that I've known you personally. And I still remember the first time I met you and I heard about your growth journey. It was so inspiring. You know, fate is actually what life throws at you, but destiny is what you make of it. And you have changed your fate. You've designed your own destiny. It can be hard for a few to realize that famous people too have had their share of struggles and that life is not as simple as it looks. They imagine all of us to have perfect lives and that we've never experienced struggles in our lives. You and I both know that's not true. So I invite you, Aoife, to first start talking about your journey. Though you've actually spoken about your journey a number of times, but I want our viewers to connect with our journey, with your journey, so that they are equally empowered that shaping their own destiny is in their hands and that they can change their lives too.
Right. Absolutely. So my journey has been quite a crazy one. It's been a complete topsy-turvy, complete headstand from where I was. I used to be this rebel without a cause kid, a real troublesome kid. I was the nightmare daughter that any parents dreaded. And I left home at 16. I was doing my own thing. Like I said, I was just rebelling constantly, and I really didn't know what I was rebelling about. But with this going on came a lot of, getting into the wrong gangs and the drugs and the smokes and everything that you don't want your kid to be doing. And it was fun while it lasted, but it ended up with me getting into a really bad crash, a bike crash. I mean, I was run off with a truck, and I had a part of my head taken off. My legs were smashed, and it was a scary place to be. And it was during this time that I was introduced to yoga by a very sweet friend of mine. She was a yoga teacher called Celine from Madras. And she was the one who really got me into yoga, and I started practicing. It was her faith in yoga. You know, she kept saying, even though the doctors had said I'd be in a wheelchair, she just said, just do this, do these two asanas. And I remember I started with Paschimottanasana and Vajrasana. And I stood with like pillows under my butt and belts and dupattas and everything. And she would just say, I promise you, just do this. Everything will be all right. You will walk again. And in the beginning, I was like, okay, this is crazy, I mean, like the doctors have said I'm going to be in a wheelchair. I mean, you're just saying that Paschimottanasana and Vajrasana, just do whatever you can, get the negative bullshit out, just focus on what you're doing. And I did that, and it was amazing because 8 months later, I was walking without crutches. In another 2 months from there on, I took my first little trot, and it was amazing. The doctors called it a medical miracle. I don't know what the hell I did at that time, but I never stopped practicing yoga. And after that, it was just from one school to another, from one teacher to another. And here I am. The journey still goes on.
Perfect. Your story is so empowering, Isha. And I feel so honored to be having you for this conversation today. I'm so honored.
Thank you.
Aoife, the textbook definition of resilience is the capacity to recover quickly and bounce back from difficulties you face during tough times you go through. What is your definition and understanding of resilience?
I think the best way I understand resilience, because it's been thrown so much at me, like if I didn't have resilience, I honestly don't know where I would be. I would literally be like one of those kids you see on the street who just grows up on the street and lands up with nothing, and you'd pass by and say, oh my god, poor thing, look what happened to her. But resilience to me over the years, I think, has been best described in a quote by Winston Churchill, and I use it a lot for a lot of my work. And he says, when going through hell, keep going. And I think that's the best way, I can describe it. When we are going through tough times, like I don't know about, everybody else in other parts of the world, but in India, we're going through a really hard time right now. And I'm sure in a lot of other countries, horror stories are going on. But we have to keep going. That's the only way to pass through hell. And for me, that's resilience, Raksha. I don't know what else. Because no dictionary can fix that. No dictionary can show us the spirit of resilience, and it's tenacity in its real and true form. It's really having that capability to wake up every morning and do it again and again and again.
True. I think so. We are experiencing some network issue, but I'm not sure.
Is it me?
I have no idea. Does the network look good? Everybody just give me a thumbs up or just message, because
is the network good, guys?
Because I did hear a couple of people mention that the network is bad.
Oh.
So, anybody, is the network good, or it's just me and Isha in the conversation?
Yeah, it's fine. Somebody says fine, thank you. Parvez says it's very good. Great.
Perfect. Great, Eefa. So, what you said about resilience sounds good. And what I also understand by resilience is, it's just a skill which we can develop with practice, the wisdom that we are born with, and the knowledge that we gather from our experiences. It's just about withstanding, processing, and sailing through the tough life events that we go through and bounce back with growth and progress. So my next question to you, Eefa, is, I believe that growth comes only when you go out of your comfort zone. Of course, that doesn't mean that we go looking for unpleasant events to happen in our lives. But it's just that whenever we are uncomfortable, can we use it for our own growth rather than dealing it with fear or, complaining about what fate has offered us? Can you talk more about pain and growth, as we all are going through tough times currently? And avoiding pain is definitely not the solution, because how much ever possible we try to avoid pain, pain doesn't avoid us. So how do we deal with pain such that it empowers us rather than breaking us?
My first thing I would say is just look for the easy way out. Being somebody who has gone through a lot of pain, physical, I'm sure we've all gone through a set of pain, but having to go through, like when you have to be on an operating table for months in a row, and you can't do it all with local anesthesia. You can't keep taking 3 local anesthetics per week. So when I was having my work done from my injuries, it was, I have seen pain up close and personal that no 23-year-old should. But having seen that, my first instinct now when I'm come across with pain is, if I can get away with it, I do. So if there is an easy way out, I will take it. I'm really not sadistic. I'm not one of those people who will say, oh my God, there's pain, here's my growth, and so let me just go head on into pain. No, I don't do that. Honestly, I don't. And I don't really know many people who do that either. But what I do is put myself through slightly uncomfortable things and practices whenever I can. So this is something I learned from my Guruji, Patavi Joyce in Mysore. And he used to talk about tap. So he said tap, as in the Sanskrit word tap, was about creating slight discomforts so that you became stronger and your spirit became stronger. So simple things like, if you're used to waking up at 7 in the morning, just for about a month, wake up at 6 in the morning. If you really like to have a glass of wine every single evening, try to spend a couple of weeks without that glass of wine. So little things like these, in my yoga practice, I would use that. In my physical practice, doing things that were uh, difficult, like, I would find my comfort zone in a particular asana and then push myself just a little bit every once in a while. It wasn't on an everyday basis. And this, for me, prepared me. So then when the hard times came and the pain was unavoidable, I was ready for it. I was ready for it in my body, mind, and spirit. And I think a lot of times we forget that when we're talking about pushing the boundaries with the comfort zone, it's not always only a physical thing. It's not always only a mental thing. It's not always only an emotional thing. So we have to prepare ourselves in all three aspects: body, mind, and spirit. If I remember a time when I nursed my beloved dad for the longest time, and it was one of the toughest things I've ever gone through. And I wasn't going through a physical pain, but the emotional and mental pain was so strong when I saw him suffering and not being able to help him or doing my best, that if it hadn't been all those hours and hours and hours of preparing myself mentally, I think I would have broken in those days. But I didn't, and I was able to be there for him and support him through his hard time. So yes, it's extremely important that we push ourselves, but also not become sadistic. Also not say that, hey, there's pain, let's dive straight into it. No, I mean, if there's a need, sure, when there's a time and a place when you can't run, you can't hide, and then you just face your deepest, darkest fears and just meet it head on. So I hope that answers your question. For me, that leads to growth.
Right. No, so you've beautifully answered that, Eefa. And you know how much we underestimate our pain. We need to make sure that we understand that pain can be useful and meaningful too. And we've also heard about this quote, no pain, no gain, but I don't think we've really understood that. And I think through pain, we can actually uncover our true potential and also discover our strengths and measure our scale of resilience, because that's where we'll realize that we've bounced back. And in whatever span of time we've bounced back, right? We get better and better every time. So we think of pain as extremely negative, but I think what we should try to do is just find a best way to go around it. And this is the time when we can apply our knowledge and wisdom of how to grow through grief and pain, because quite a few of us are going through something or the other during this pandemic, and not let the pain stop us in any way. And also, I think when we choose growth in pain, we'll be able to see amazing things happen also. So I think it's just a matter of that perspective shift of how we see growth in pain and not let that, kind of weigh us down.
Very well said,
yeah, thank you. So my other thing that I wanted to ask you is, you decided to really go sober at some point. You were comfortable with your addictions. Going sober means actually coming out of that comfort zone. So did you really go back and forth? And
it's called going through hell. It's not just coming out. There's no hell worse than, going cold turkey on. And I think anybody who's here on this live chat with us, who's had some kind of an addiction problem, whether it's been with some kind of drugs or cigarettes or alcohol or sugar or obsessive behaviors around somebody you love, going cold turkey is one of the hardest things.
True. So what was that one anchoring factor or that one leading value that helped you stay strong and resilient and made it possible for you to stick to your decision and not give up on yourself?
I would say it was love. I had a little doggy called Chick Chick. And what really kept me through, Chick Chick was my best friend. He was my father, my son, my everything. Like, my world revolved around my little baby. And when I decided to quit, it was very hard because when you clean up, it's not just the substance you're cleaning up from. You're also cleaning up from breaking away from the people that you're so close knitly hanging out with on a daily basis. You're very, there's it's something that people don't really talk about, and I wish that more people did. But when you have an addiction and you're obviously hanging out with people who have the same addiction. You never find an addict being like best friends with a person who's like addicted to something completely polar opposite, like health. So what most people don't understand is that you make such a strong emotional bond with those people that when you decide to go clean, you have no choice but to break that bond. You really can't. There's really no other way of continuing to hang out with the same gang, the same people, and be clean. So that was really tough. And that just makes you feel even more isolated, even more lonely, and like nobody understands you. And, everything in your life is going upside down. And it's all like the shit's hit the fan. And in those times, it was always my little chick with me. He was cuddled up by my side, and he just made me feel with his love and his gestures that he didn't care what I was. He never had any judgment against me about what I smoked or what I didn't, or whatever I was. He had no judgment. He just loved me as much, irrelevant. And that really was my anchor. That was my strongest point. With human beings, it's difficult because we say things, there's misunderstandings. But with animals, the bonds are so strong and so pure that I would really say that was love. That was pure love that kept me through it all.
True, and I so resonate with you because I had a dog named Toffee and we lost him like about 2 years back. And pets
Yeah,
give such immense unconditional love and so much,
absolutely.
and they trust us blindly. They don't really expect anything from us, and having just somebody to love you unconditionally, non-judgmental, is so important. But I also would emphasize that if people don't have pets, and if they're not able to find any human around who can love them unconditionally and give them the love and support that they require, I think it's all about exploring self-love, self-respect, and self-appreciation as well at some point. Because
You'll have to, of course. You'd have to.
yeah, and I think also being in the present moment, living in the now, will help you disconnect with all the negativity that impairs our growth. And that's the bond that we learn to live in the now when we experience that love, that unconditional love, that non-judgmental love. We are actually in the present, and hence we forget everything that's negative around us. So this is so great, to have somebody love you unconditionally.
Yeah.
So by
It's a privilege. It's one of life's greatest
yes, I
privileges. And I've been
true,
honored
and
to
I
have
think
it.
yeah, and I think we humans should give that space to everybody around us, especially in this tough time, so that we all can grow through whatever we are going through.
Absolutely. You got to give back what you receive, and you always will get back what you give. So we have to keep that in mind in these times.
True. So, Eefa, what I wanted to ask you is, everybody is talking about self-love, self-empowerment, self-respect. What do you think about these? And do you think it's important, and have they played a role in your growth as well?
Oh my God, of course, they're so important because it's the way we see ourselves that's actually going to predict how much we love ourselves or not. In my journey and my experience, I've always said, like, back in the day when I was trying to transform from where I was to where I wanted to be, I may not have known, like, self-love was too big a word. I did not know what that meant. Like, I knew theoretically what it meant. I knew grammatically what it meant, but I had no experience. Like, if people talked about self-love, I just shrug my shoulders and say, yeah, that's cool. Good for you, babe. You love yourself. But I really had no experience of it, as you can imagine. But what got me through that, what guided me through my toughest time, was self-respect. And that is really what kept me up and got me going, is because if you don't respect yourself, it reflects very quickly because people around you stop respecting you. So that mirror is so strong and it's so in your face. And I used it, and I think for some people, self-love really works well. For some people, self-respect really works well. Whatever you just find your thing and do it, but we have to find out what it is that works for us and use it to our advantage. For me, self-respect is self-love. Doing what I said I would do. Just because I said I would do it, I'm going to do it. For me, that was where the big change was. Just because every time I was really wanting to go back to one of my addictions, and I was cold turkey, and it's an extremely unpleasant and a painful experience when you're going through it. I would just say, okay, you know what, Eefa, do this just because you said you'd do it. Just because you said you were not going to do this, don't do it. Just because you said you were going to do something better, every time you felt like having a cigarette, let's go for a walk. That's what I decided when I was feeling good. Now I'm feeling like shit. Let's do it. Just because I said I was going to do it. And I think that really, really opened up this very narrow, dark tunnel for me back then towards this place called self-love. But it all started with learning to respect myself, learning to respect my own word.
Right. Valuing yourself and making sure that you're sticking to your your commitments, because you value yourself enough. See, anything precious is what we take care of, right? I mean, we really go out of our way to take care of precious things. Considering ourselves as precious also helps us take care of ourselves and stick to our word with ourselves. Stick to our commitments with ourselves. So that's great. Thank you so much, Eefa. And I also believe that our views about others is just a reflection of self. So tapping into our wisdom of self first will help us change the views of others for us too. And hence comparison here doesn't play a role. In fact, what we should be, how we can see our progress is also more like comparing ourselves where we were earlier and where we are now, rather than comparing ourselves with others, which will in fact impair our growth rather than, taking us ahead in our journey. And I remember beautifully, the other day we were having a conversation, Eefa, and you mentioned something about 6 human needs and how you wish that you had known about them earlier in life. Could you just elaborate them for our viewers here?
Right. So there's a concept called 6 human needs. People who haven't heard about it can Google it. I came across the concept when I was studying NLP, and it really got some lights going on. And I realized that had I known that concept when I was trying to overcome my addiction, unfortunately, I found out about it way later, but it can really help people overcome their addictions or their addictive behaviors, which are not empowering them. And basically what 6 human needs is that we all have these 6 human needs, and the top 4 are certainty, the second is having a sense of adventure, surprise, significance, and love and connection. Now, when I was addicted to my addictions, I realized it was this need for adventure. Of course, it was fulfilling all the needs, but it was really fulfilling my leading need, which was a need for adventure, a need for uncertainty, a need for change. And I was just using my addictions to get that, but it wasn't leading to any kind of growth. It wasn't leading to some kind of sense of contribution, which are your second 2 needs of fulfillment, growth and contribution. And when I studied this concept, I came up with a question for myself saying, okay, how can I fulfill this need for adventure in a way that will also lead to my growth and a sense of contribution to my society, my family, my loved ones around me. And that changed everything, because having an addictive behavior, of course, was fulfilling that need of adventure at a 10 on 10. But it wasn't leading to my growth. It was doing the opposite. It was killing me. And it definitely was not leading to any sense of contribution. But what I did when I came across this concept, I was like, okay, instead of just saying, let's not smoke, let's not do drugs, let's not do destructive behaviors, let's not rebel without a cause. Instead of when you're doing that, you're just stifling a person's you're stifling their passion in a way, because the person's trying to break out and say something which they're having a difficult time expressing. But if you could take that same thing and mold it, saying, okay, how can I get the same sense of fulfillment, maybe even higher up, but in a way that leads to growth and contribution, and now allow your brain to open up. It just, like, for me, I came up with the idea of goal setting, and that just lit my brain up in a way that no drugs, no alcohol, no cigarettes, no doing crazy stupid things had ever lit my brain up. And there was, I mean, I cook now. I love cooking. I love making new stuff. I love working with nutritional gastronomy. So when I'm doing that, it's giving my brain that sense of excitement, understanding new cultures through their food, understanding how I can take something delicious and bring it together with something nutritious. And so all of this stuff, we all have things that really excite us, or give us that sense of certainty, or give us that sense of significance, or give us that sense of love and connection. So yeah, 6 Human Needs, I think, is a real game changer. I strongly feel people should be teaching it in school to kids, so that kids can learn how to take care of their needs. Yeah,
True,
does that
very well
answer your
said.
question?
Yes, very well said, Eefa. I think the most fundamental aspect of leading others is to first understand the factors that impact our own behavior. And by appreciating and learning about basic human needs that govern the choices that we make, will not only help us understand ourselves better, but also will help us lead and guide people in a better way. And I definitely believe that, knowing myself has helped me help my health gainers in a better way compared to when I was ignorant about myself. So when you just mentioned about uh, you just spoke about goal setting. So I wanted to know whether, this visualization of the future, or goal setting, or whatever you call it, future pacing, how important is that, and how often should one do it, and how should one do it?
Well, that could take a few hours of conversation. But just to put it in short and simple words, it's absolutely necessary, because if we don't visualize how we want our futures to be, then we're just going to be part of somebody else's visualization. So instead of just, buying anything that you've been marketed to, it is better to visualize where you are going, how you want to eat, how you want to be, what are the things you want to buy, what are the things you want to fill your life with, and visualizing these things on a daily, weekly, yearly basis, and I mean all of them in that order, is very important, because that is, like, when we were talking about right in the beginning, fate and destiny. These are these to me are like these crazy cousin sisters. And fate and destiny, fate is what, life throws at you. I'm 5'6", and I'm always going to be 5'6". I have trouble getting onto technology like Instagram Live. I have trouble turning my computer on and off. I just find it easier to just put the flap down and it's done, and put the flap up and it's on. That is fate. If you push me to become a software engineer, oh my God, it would be horrid. It would be like the worst thing the world ever had. But it's what you do with what you've been given that you form your destiny. And if you don't visualize, you can't do that. You can't flip over from fate to destiny if you are not able to visualize, if you don't take the time. I think the most disempowered people in the world are the ones who say, I can't visualize, I can't think. Sometimes you come across clients, just tell me what to eat, Eefa. I don't want to think. You just tell me how much I should weigh, what should be my fat percentage, why I should have a goal to lose the weight, what should I eat for breakfast, lunch, and dinner from Monday to Saturday, and what workout I should do for how many. You just tell me. Do 10 squats, do so many push-ups. That don't ask me to think. I mean, they're not obviously saying it literally like that, but that's a kind of a personality. And for me, those are the people I am most passionate about. I will not tell them what to eat. I will not tell them how to exercise, and I will push them to hell's door till they have no choice but to think for themselves, till they have no choice but to say, okay, why is it that I want to change? Because if we don't have the why, then you don't have the visual. And if you don't have the visual, then nothing's going to work, you know. And I'm sure you'd agree with me, right? Like just telling somebody what to eat and what to do is not going to change anything, you know. I mean, are you going to babysit them for what, 365 days till they turn 96? So visualization is really important and it's difficult. I understand, you know, if you haven't been conditioned and taught to visualize, it's very difficult because you're asking your brain to form a new neural connection. It's very difficult. It's like learning to play the piano at age 50. It's like learning to speak a new language at age 70. It's difficult. But this is what keeps your brain young and alive. When people talk about anti-aging, 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 this is the greatest anti-aging strategy, right? Like if your brain can form a new neural connection, believe me, it's going to start shedding old skin, getting rid of wrinkles, start building your muscles and bones, start turning your body into a fat burning machine instead of a fat building machine. And it all started with that one spark of that amazing desire that you were able to visualize. So yes, visualizing is really important. I visualize what I'm going to eat for breakfast, lunch, and dinner sometimes. I mean, that's how often I do it, because if I don't do it for myself, someone else is going to do it for me. And my mom's going to feed me some really delicious Parsi food where I'm going to see a few kgs go up tomorrow morning. So I will visualize for myself.
Cool, cool. So beautifully answered, Eefa. Because and it's similar to finding your purpose, right? I mean, and your purposes could be a number of them through your journey, life journey also. But if you found your purpose, to achieve that, you kind of, you know where you want to go. Without a sense of where you want to go, you're going to just keep changing paths and not get to anywhere. So yeah, I also believe that, you know, goal setting and visualization plays a very important role. In fact, goal setting can help us view our bigger picture and help us achieving what we aim for. Having a bigger picture is equally important as much as, you know, starting with these small achievable goals. So yes, I mean, I agree with you that, you know, building visualization, even visualization of, as you beautifully said, you visualize what you're going to eat for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and that helps you just manage everything that what you're aiming at in the longer run. So that's wonderful. I wanted to also ask you about your Ashtang yoga and your journey through it, and how did it help you get where you are currently? Because you started at a very crucial time in your life. Has it played an important role in achieving what you have achieved today?
Oh my God, absolutely. I've had some amazing mentors in my life. And one of them has been my Guruji, Sri K. Patabi Joyce. Bless his soul, he is no more. But he had a huge impact on my life, a huge one. You know, and it was not just about the practice, not just about my physical yoga, asana practice. I mean, of course, he had the biggest impact on that. I learned everything from him. But it was the small conversations that I had with him that really opened my mind up. And that's when I learned that yoga really wasn't about, it wasn't about this asana practice and how many asanas you did. Of course, that was the, you know, that was the starting point, but it was a way of life and it was a way of thinking and it was a philosophy that he introduced me to. And I still live by it. I mean, I may not practice 3.5 hours every morning the way I used to back in the day when I was practicing with him, but my practice is much deeper today because I am in yoga. I would like to think 24/7. You know, whenever I'm unable to make a decision, whenever I have to make a choice, I will always go back to my yoga philosophy. And if I'm not feeling good or right about something, you know, like a goal I may have set, and I get started on it, and then it's like, I don't know, something doesn't feel right, and I'll check my yama niyama, and for sure there'll be something that I am kind of going against my true grain somewhere. So yeah, so Ashtanga has had a huge impact on me. Osho had a huge impact on me. He was my very first mentor, and it was so strange because after him I met Guruji, and they were they were so different in their philosophies, it seemed, at least. They came from such different, like polar opposite parts of the world and thought processes. And I think it was that polarity that just blew my mind open, because, and I always say it's like that's what gave me the capacity. I can enjoy trance as much as I enjoy Bach, and as much as I enjoy listening to shlokas. And most people say, but Eefa, like, how is it? Like, sometimes I have friends who look at my playlist, and I had like one of my closest friends, yeah, and he was going through my playlist once in the car, and he just looked, and I was like, just choose something. I was driving, so I was like, just play something. And he started going through my playlist, and I just looked at me, I was like, what's up? Why are you staring at me? He said, who are you? Who are you? Like, I don't know who you are. What is like, what are all these playlists? And I'm only saying that because, music is such an important thing. Like, for me, my audio is my leading sense. Um, and if I have the ability to appreciate and listen to all those different vibrations and align myself with it, it's showing me that my brain has that capacity to be that open-minded and to understand different people's vibrations too. Yeah.
Beautifully said.
So,
I think because you've kind of seen it all, it's easier for you to accept what comes your way as well. And I think that's the whole one of the aspects of resilience as well, that you accept things as they come, and you're ready to even bring in new perspectives. You're ready to explore new things. And exploration is also one of the human needs, as you mentioned earlier. So wow, that's
yeah.
wonderful. I
It's
think
very nicely put, Raksha. You know what you said about acceptance. I mean, it's not been said before, but that's really, I think, when you say resilience, the first step number in that equation should be acceptance. Like, first we need to accept. Okay, now the shit has hit the fan. A lot of times I see that people don't want to do that. Like, no, it's okay. Nothing's going to happen. It's all going to be fine. I think first thing you need to do is accept, and that's very well put by you.
Thank you. We have a question here.
Yes.
Would you go
I can
for
only
a
see
bigger
hi
picture?
on my screen.
Okay. So would you go for a bigger picture or set smaller goals?
I don't know. I just kind of jive with it. Sometimes I set like these ridiculously big goals, and then I'll kind of go into it, and I'll like, okay, this is like, it's something is not feeling right. It's too stressful. So let me kind of scale down and, start with a smaller goal. But I would say I jive with both. I'd really jive with both. I'm not afraid of trying out 10 different things and saying no when things don't feel right. I don't mean say no when things don't go right, but when things don't feel right. Like, if something doesn't feel right, I'm not ashamed to say, okay, I made a mistake. That's not for me. Scrap it.
So how do you tap into your intuitive wisdom? I mean, it's all about intuition, and humans, kind of are the most, they have an advantage over any other species with their intuition, the sixth sense. So how do you tap into that?
Practice.
Your yoga. So are you saying your yogas
No,
help you
you
get
just
into that
practice. You
intuition?
practice in you. No. You practice intuition. So if I asked you, Raksha, what would you love to have for dinner tonight?
Interesting.
That would allow you and align you to reach your goal in a really easy, fun way. What would you like to eat today? I'm waiting for you. I expect you to answer that.
Maybe some grilled veggies and maybe a salad that I like, or maybe
There you go. How did you know that? So that's what I mean, practice. So, like a simple question that I always ask myself when I need to get an intuitive answer about something is like, so I'm trying to like build something and I don't know how to get it started. I'd just say, okay, if I knew the answer, what would it be? And then I'd just wait, and then whatever's the first thing that would come up, I'd kind of go with that. So just practice being intuitive.
Yeah, that's so beautifully put. I mean, just listen to yourself, just calm yourself down, understand where you're coming from, and then just, believe in yourself and listen to yourself. I think that's tapping into that intuitive wisdom as well. Cool. So,
You're very classy. You're very classy in your approach, Raksha. I'm just like, I'm a headbanger, right? So it's like, you ask me, how do you be intuitive? Just bloody answer the question, you know. So
you are
yeah,
so authentic, Eefa. You're
I'm
so
self-taught.
authentic.
Unfortunately, I've not had any better ways to learn. So it's like you take a person, throw them in the fire, and then just tell them to be intuitive.
And I think that's what connects you and me together as well, because I love being self-taught. I just don't believe what people have to say. I want to give it a try and see if it works for me, because whatever might work for others, not necessarily would work for me. So whatever works for me, works for me. And that's the key. So I guess that's the
Absolutely.
beautiful connect that we both have. So I remember when we were talking about, a couple of stuff, and I just wanted to know, did positive thinking help you come out of that situation? Because I'm sure with addiction and how people looked at you, or we spoke about self-respect, and you mentioned that there was of course there's a lot of guilt, a lot of shame, everything going in your head, but did positive thinking kind of help you, and how did you even start with that?
Positive thinking means. I've never practiced it. Um, I just think. So I will come. I mean, I have a thought. If it feels good, let's keep it. If it doesn't feel good, let's chuck it. Sometimes I can't chuck it. I remember there was a time, like I mentioned about my dad, we were in really dire straits. Like he was going through the worst time ever. He had lost consciousness. He was being pulled into an emergency surgery. I thought I was losing him. I was freaking out, crying, and speaking to the doctor as he was being pulled into the OT. And suddenly I remember the doctor looked at me and he said, "Stop it." I remember him saying that. He said, "Eefa, just stop it. Your dad's going to make it through this. He's going to survive." And as soon as he said that, you know what I did? I said, "What's wrong?" Of course, I just needed somebody to tell me, "Stop it," because my mind was going into a negative spiral. This means I'm going to lose my father. This means I'm going to lose the most beloved person in my life. Da 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 da. And I was in this downward spiral. And sometimes you can't stop yourself, and I'm okay with that. But I'm happy to listen to a sign from somebody or a sign from nature, and say, okay, this doesn't feel good. Chuck, next. Doesn't feel good. Chuck, next. Okay, feels good. Keep. So that's all I understand. I don't understand positive. I think like I've always liked critical thinking more than positive thinking, because positive thinking, I don't know, sometimes I feel like people who I see are always very positive. Sometimes they are not really ready to, like you said, accept what's really going on. It's like, no, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. This means a good thing. And yes, of course, it means a good thing. But you do have to take care of, like you can't stand in the middle of the highway and say, I'm a really positive person, and allow the truck to hit you and saying it's not going to hit me. It's not. So, of course, using your critical faculty, we've all been given a brain and we've been given a heart. And if that thought aligns with both, great, it's positive. I'm going to keep it. If it doesn't align with both, so it doesn't feel right and I can't think of it in a right way, then I'm going to chuck it.
Wow,
But I have the habit of, like everybody else, I mean, I can go into a negative spiral very badly. Raksha, look, I have accepted I'm an addictive brain type, okay? And there's a lot of people like me. And I would love to form a social club with all of us addictive brain types. We have to be careful. Once you come out of your addictions and once you've understood that I can become addicted with anything. So when I got into Ashtanga, it was an obsession. Like I turned everything around and it was just Ashtanga. If I get into nutrition, it's just nutrition. It's like everything is about nutrition. I want everyone around to be really excited about the conversations because I'm so excited. And if you're not part of that conversation, I'll like shake and say, why are you not excited about nutrition? How could you not? Like, oh my God, look at this new world out there. There's food. So that's just my brain type, and now I've learned to work with it, and I think it's an asset. I don't think that it's a downer. I think it's an asset as long as you choose your addictions carefully. If I can choose growth, if I can choose learning a new subject or whatever it is that may kind of get my fancy and get my spark, that's great.
You've made this
So
sound so simple, Eefa. I mean, it's just it's this or it's this. I mean, there's no brainer. Just apply your brain and choose what feels right. I mean, don't give
It
it a
should
second
feel
thought.
good. I mean, I don't care. Sometimes I've had like, somebody has said, oh my God, like I've had a really close friend who was like really shamed for something he did not do. And everybody, oh my God, that's such a bad person. And I was like, really? Like, how about asking the guy, I mean, this is a person I've spent so many years of my life having conversations about deep things in my life. Why would I not support this person and at least giving him a chance to express his side? I have no problem. And people like said, oh my God, how can you support that kind of behavior? So I'm not supporting that kind of behavior, but this is my friend. I have to give him a chance to at least explain himself. And I'm really glad. But yeah, of course, we all get, I mean, I could go down if I just allowed myself, oh my God, this time in my life. But we have to keep it simple. For me, I need to keep it simple. Like, I guess after studying things which are so complicated, like Ashtanga and sports nutrition, and all of this stuff, and then you have to kind of figure out with your family and where you are and your own health issues, and I want things to be simple. So if it feels right, if the whole world says that Raksha is lying, and I come and ask you, Raksha, babe, what's up? Like, what's going on? Is this true? And you give me a part of your story, and it feels right when you're talking to me. I'm not going to listen to the hundreds of, idiots, loony people sitting there complaining about you. I'm going to ask you. You're my friend. You're the person. And if it feels right, great. I'm going to keep it. If it feels wrong, I'm going to let it go.
Yeah, beautifully said, Eefa. And I think what resonated also with me while you were talking was we could have a lot of thoughts, but if we understood our thoughts, where we were coming from, and just nip it in the bud, rather than it going from one thought to the other and the other and the other and pulling us down. I think that's where it'll help us not go into the spiral downside. And I think tapping into that, tapping into the conversation also that we have, or the thought processes that we have. So I think somewhere positive thinking does help. Maybe if we put it indirectly also, positive thinking does help. And you spoke about that critical conversation, and my next book that I'm going to read is Critical Conversation. So I'm excited to start. Yeah, I'm excited to start that book though.
Let me know how it is.
Sure, I will. Did any book at any point of time help you, motivate you to stay on your path?
Oh, many. My life is all about books. I read a lot. I mean, there have been so many, but it's like I've never had okay, that's one book that changed my life. I don't really know that. But a lot of books did change my life. Maybe not in that big way that you're asking me, but lots. I mean, everything from like, I remember reading the Celestine Prophecy like 20 years ago, Richard Bach, I remember that one line I read, yeah, that changed a lot for me. And it was this one quote, I'm trying to remember it. Hold on. Yeah, if you want to make life interesting, you're going to have to make the biggest sacrifice. You're going to have to sacrifice boredom. I will never forget that line. I was like, oh my God. So yeah, that's something that, there's so many books that that I would read, and if I just got that one little thing from it, it would be amazing. But there's tons. I'm sorry, I can't give you a list of names because we'd be here for hours. My friend Lissika is online. I just want to say, hi Lissika. I'm sorry, I don't know how to do this emoticon thing, but hey.
So beautifully put. You know what? I also believe that until we change our thinking, we will always recycle our experiences. Our,
Very
our
nice.
mind actually believes what we feed it. So it's always nice to feed it good things. A lot of positivity, respect, courage, love. Just feed it with all of that, and I think we'll be good thinkers and good positive people to be around as well. And we'll be people who people like being around because we love ourselves. So it's I think, yeah, it's all about starting with ourselves first and then spreading it outside. So I remember when we sit on our planes and they tell us pehle apna mask pehniye and then help others. So first wear your oxygen mask if there's depletion, and then then look at helping others. So I think this is similar. So even in your 6 human needs, it's all about starting with yourself, understanding yourself, and then being ready to help others, finding your purpose in helping others as well. So it's so beautifully, and I can understand why I and you connect so beautifully, because I think we come from, though whether I put it in a classy way and you put it in a simple way, I think it's all about that connection that we have together and the spark that we both bring into our conversations. So, and you beautifully put even that neurological, that spark that kind of keeps you motivated to go into deciding or visualizing what next. So that's so beautifully put, Eefa. I also wanted to ask you one last question before we maybe take in one or two questions depending on the time left from the viewers. We did speak about you talking about your value of freedom, and there was one thing that you really still believe in. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah. So I think it's always nice to know what our top values are, because our values kind of form these internal representations of our reality, or in simple words to say, our perceptions. And for me, my top value has always been freedom. But the way I interpret it, or the way I perceived it, was in my earlier days, I would say, is that I needed to do all the bad things or anything. If you said I'm not allowed to do it or I can't do it, I just had to do it. It didn't have any sense to me. It didn't matter if I really wanted to do it. Just because you said no, I'm going to do it, right? So because I was trying to prove that I was free. You get what I mean? Maybe to you,
Yeah.
more so to myself. So even when I got my first job when I was 16 years old, it was to show myself that I was free, that I could make it in this big bad world on my own. And that led to the cigarettes and the parties and everything else that came with it. Because I just want to know that it's like a lot of times I would say I would have these mad 3-day parties more to prove that I was free. And if somebody came there and said, stop that loud music and you're, killing us and giving us hell, then I had to put the music even louder. Because, oh my God, am I not free? Just let me double check. Am I free? I want to listen to loud music. I'm going to listen to loud music. Doesn't matter if it disturbs somebody else. Doesn't matter if there's some poor old person who's trying to get a good night's sleep and I'm just making their life miserable. I just had to check if I was free, So, but people didn't understand that about me. They just said, this chick's cuckoo and let's just stay away from her. But later, I remember it was that one day I was driving from Bombay to Lonavala, and I had tried to quit smoking many times before, many times. And I would stop and start and stop and start, as most people usually go through that pattern. But it was that one day I realized, I smelled my hands, which smelled as usual, the smoke in the hair and the skin, and your clothes smell and everything smells disgusting. And I was wearing that and I was listening to some music. I was just entering the tunnel from Bombay when you're going towards Lonavala, the long tunnel. And suddenly something came to my mind and I was like, you know what? I'm not free. I have to smoke when I have to smoke. Oh my God, I'm not free. That was such a big insight. And to most people, when I told this to my friends later, and they were like, duh, dummy, like it took you like how many years to figure that out? And I was like, no, but I'm not free. You don't understand. I'm a slave to the cigarette. I'm a slave to the habit. And They're like, okay, like whatever, But that was my moment. So now I realize that I am free to be the person I want to be. I don't have to do something because I'm enslaved to the habit. I am free. If I don't like something about myself and I want to change it, I am free and I will check that immediately by changing. If something doesn't feel good or doesn't feel right, if I'm speaking to somebody in a consistently irritable way just because we're going through our hard times or elsewhere in the world, I will check myself and say, I am free to be a better person. I am free not to remove my irritation about something else on this poor person who's only supporting me and helping me, or just to have a good conversation with me. I'm free not to behave badly in front of people just because I'm in a bad mood. Just because I'm in a bad mood doesn't mean that you have to bear the consequences of it. So I'm free. I'm free to be in a bad mood later when I'm by myself and I have pen and paper and I can think that out. I don't have to put you through it. So for me, this is freedom. So it's all, the value always remains the same. People ask me very often, Eefa, what values changed? And I was like, nothing. Actually, that value just became, I could see my value in its true sense. My perception of the value changed. So perception is so important.
Right.
Does that
And I think,
question?
yeah. And I think every human loves freedom. And when they're not experiencing freedom, they're probably in their comfort zone playing the victim space. They're in the victim space. And I think that's what makes it uncomfortable to stand up for yourself and experience freedom. So yeah, it's so beautifully said, Eefa, that freedom was one of the leading values for you, which stood by through your journey. It's just that the perspective of looking at that value changed, and that helped you grow as well. So very beautifully put. If anybody has one last question to ask Eefa, we are there, or we can wind up, because otherwise our video will not get saved. And I want this video to get saved and reach as many people and get motivated and empowered by the conversation we had.
You are so sweet. I just had a good time.
I had a great time. Thank you so much. And I'm feeling so honored to do this conversation with you.
Oh, that's so sweet of you. Thank you, Raksha. I don't think anybody is asking questions. Can you see it at your end? Can we wrap up because we gotta go?
Yes, we're good to go.
Yeah.
I think we've answered everybody's questions. You've answered it all. So people are still, kind of thinking and reflecting back on what you had to give them. I'm sure everybody is.
Thank you so much, Raksha, for having me. Thank you so much, guys who are still online and who had the patience to sit with us and think with us. We really enjoyed you. We felt all your energies coming through. Parvez, we miss you. Going to come to Bombay soon. All right, guys, everybody.
We love you, Parvez.
Absolutely. Look, it's public now. All right, guys. Thank you so much. Really enjoyed your company, Raksha. Thanks a lot. Speak soon.
Same here. Yeah.
Thank you. Bye.